In the exhilarating world of rally racing, Colin McRae was a legend, a driving force that captured the hearts of motorsport enthusiasts worldwide. With 4 World Rally Championship titles under his belt, and a reputation as one of the sport's most fearless drivers, Colin looked invincible behind the wheel. Yet, on an ordinary day, fate took a cruel turn. You could crash a rally car several times, but you only get to do that once with a helicopter. Colin Steele McRae was born on August 5, 1968, in the charming town of Lanark, Scotland, into a family deeply rooted in the world of rally driving. His father, Jimmy, was highly successful in the British Rally Championship, winning the title a record 5 times between 1981 and 1988, a record that still stands to this day. So it was no surprise that Colin followed in his father's footsteps by riding trial bikes at an early age. Even though he liked cars more than bikes, Colin managed to become the Scottish schoolboy motocross champion when he was just 13 years old. And at the age of 16, Colin was already turning heads on the local racing scene after he started auto testing in a Mini Cooper. Meanwhile, he worked tirelessly in the family plumbing business, saving up for a rally prep Talbot Sunbeam so that he could afford to keep competing in rallies. At the age of 18, Colin made his debut in rallying, and he was a natural with his speed and exciting driving style, and everyone who watched him saw his talent. He quickly made a name for himself in the Scottish Rally Championship, and his driving style drew many comparisons to Finnish ex-World Rally champion Ari Vatanen, whom Colin had always idolized. But Colin's ambitions went beyond that. He longed for more, something bigger. In 1987, Colin took part in his first official WRC event, the Swedish Rally, held amidst the snowy peaks of Sweden. Behind the wheel of a Vauxhall Nova, he claimed the 36th spot overall and a podium finish of 3rd in his class, even though he had managed to hit the snowbanks more than once. In 1988, Colin clinched his first victory at the Tweedies Rally, co-driven by his future wife Alison Hamilton. Despite facing several mechanical issues, Colin continued to deliver impressive performances over the following 2 years, which caught the eye of the ProDrive Subaru factory team. They were impressed by the Scots' natural talent, and in 1991 they made the decision to sign him. This move was considered a significant gamble, as there were doubts about whether Colin could live up to his reputation. However, the gamble paid off, as Colin went on to clinch the 1991 BRC Championship with ease. By 1992, Colin was competing against the best rally drivers from around the world in his first full season of the World Rally Championship, driving the Rothmans Legacy. However, it wasn't until the following year that he achieved his first outright victory in the WRC, and at this point, Colin's unstoppable drive to go full speed ahead became widely known. During the Lombard Rally, just 25 seconds into the race, Colin veered his Subaru into a ditch. Spectators even helped to get him back on track, starting the trend of Colin finishing stages despite his beaten-up car. Later that year in Finland, he flipped the car 7 times in a major crash, but amazingly, it landed upright. Without missing a beat, Colin fired up the engine and kept going, only to flip the car again a few minutes later. This series of events made it clear to Subaru that Colin was always pushing the limits. The year 1994 saw the debut of Colin's most iconic rally car, the Impreza 555. Throughout 1995, he consistently performed well in the now battle-scarred Impreza, often outperforming his teammate. And this remarkable performance not only earned him the World Rally Championship title that year, but also made him the youngest ever WRC champion at just 27, and the first British driver to win the championship. This win meant a lot to his fans and the country, and his efforts were recognized when he received an MBE from Queen Elizabeth II in 1996. Colin continued to excel for the next 2 years in the Impreza, racking up numerous rally wins and securing second place in the standings in 1996 and 1997. However, towards the end of his contract with Subaru in 1998, Colin's car faced a lot of mechanical issues that ultimately led to his departure after a partnership that lasted 7 years. The following year, Colin made a big move to Ford's M Sport team for the 1999 WRC season, backed by high hopes from the team. Teaming up with Nicky Grist in the new Ford Focus WRC, he kicked off strongly with a dominant win at Rally Kenya. But despite winning the Safari and Portugal rallies, Colin faced several setbacks, being excluded from the first rally and retiring from 10 others out of the 14-round championship. But despite these challenges, he continued with Ford for 2 more years. In 2001, he secured 3 consecutive rally wins in Argentina, Cyprus, and Acropolis, but missed out on a second title due to a crash in the final round. However, just a few months later in 2002, he won the 2002 Safari Rally. Little did he know, this record-breaking drive to victory would be his final World Rally Championship win. With his contract expired, Colin struggled to secure a drive, marking the first time in over a decade that he was absent from the WRC. Since he had a lot of time on his hands now, Colin joined other racing competitions, becoming 3rd place in the GT1 class at the 2004 Le Mans, participating in the Paris-Dakar Rally, and grabbing 2 stage wins in 2004 before crashing out in 2005. Colin also represented Great Britain in the Race of Champions and secured victory in the Baja 500 competition in 2005. And not stopping there, he even crafted his own custom rally car. In August 2006, Colin took part in the first live televised American rally at the X Games in Los Angeles, something he always dreamt about, but unfortunately, he rolled the car on the second-to-last corner after a rough landing from a jump, causing damage to the front bumper and left front tire. But as you'll know by now, Colin was not one to give up easily, and he kept driving the damaged car to the finish line, coming in just 0.13 seconds behind eventual winner Travis Pastrana. Throughout his 3-decade-long career, Colin McRae was an exceptional driver who loved pushing the limits, always aiming to be the fastest on the track. And if he was known for one thing, it would be, if in doubt, flat out, a motto that showed his fearless approach to racing. But his daring style often led to crashes, which cost him chances to win big championships and sadly would play a role in his tragic demise. One of his most famous quotes, "You're here for a good time, not a long time," sadly became a reality when Colin's life came to an abrupt end, not on the track as one might expect, but in a way that took everyone by surprise. On September 15, 2007, around 2 p.m., Colin McRae boarded his Eurocopter AS350 B2 Squirrel, a single-engine light utility helicopter. With a considerable amount of flying experience under his belt, totaling 965 hours, of which 490 were on this specific type of helicopter, Colin was no stranger to the skies. He often used his helicopter for short trips, like the one he planned that day to visit a friend's farm near Larkhall, about 8 miles from his house. Earlier that day, Colin had been at home with 2 friends getting bikes and quad bikes ready for an upcoming biking event. One of his friends, Graham Duncan, a former quad bike racing champion, accompanied him on the helicopter to help with finding parts for the bikes at the farm. Colin's 5-year-old son Johnny and Johnny's 6-year-old friend Ben Porcelli also joined them for the ride. However, Ben's parents were unaware of the helicopter flight and had not been asked for their permission. But of course, the little boy was super excited for this thrilling adventure and saw no harm in joining. After spending an hour on the farm, the 4 took off again at 3 p.m. Throughout the 6-minute return flight back to Colin's house, Graham recorded most of the journey using a camcorder. Before takeoff, Colin could be heard asking his passengers, "Are you ready to rock and roll?" before he waved at the camera and gave a thumbs up. The camera then captured the children at the back of the aircraft, waving and smiling. And just a few minutes later, Colin performed several complex maneuvers, including buzzing a few farmhouses and flying within 20 feet of trees and climbing the helicopter at high altitudes out of a valley, experiencing significant G-loading as a result. The passengers seemed to enjoy the aerial stunts, with lots of laughter and shouting captured on the camcorder. However, less than a minute after turning it off, Colin lost control of the helicopter, as it began shaking uncontrollably and descending rapidly, hurtling toward the ground at an alarming speed. Colin did everything he could to regain control, but it was too late. Suddenly, a deafening bang echoed through the air. The helicopter crashed into a densely wooded area at the base of a steep hill, igniting a large fire that consumed much of the aircraft's structure. The accident occurred approximately 150 yards from the helicopter pad near Colin's home, where the helicopter was supposed to land. David Lowry, a farmer who lived near Colin's home, was feeding his cattle when he noticed the aircraft flying overhead. He observed it veering to the right and then sharply to the left before disappearing into a nearby valley. As he continued his tasks, he realized that the helicopter did not come out from the valley. Upon glancing across the valley as he exited the field, he spotted what appeared to be part of the helicopter rotor arm spiraling up into the sky. It was then that he realized that something terrible had happened. The search for answers began immediately as the Air Accidents Investigation Branch, responsible for investigating air accidents in the UK, swiftly arrived at the scene. The rescue teams hurried to the crash site but found a devastated scene. The previously serene wooded area was now littered with debris and wreckage of the aircraft, and as the rescue teams drew nearer, the gravity of the situation began to dawn on them. The wreckage lay scattered on the ground, and it was immediately clear that there were no survivors. Colin, Johnny, Ben, and Graham didn't make it out. Sergeant Robert Logan, one of the first responders, gave a gruesome account of the crash site. He revealed that he saw body parts hanging out of the crashed helicopter, like a leg with a tanned boot on the helicopter's left side and a foot on the right-hand side of the chopper. Dr. Gerald Murphy, called in to identify the victims, also shared his experience, recalling finding a small child's shoe still smoldering in the wreckage. Forensic pathologist John Clark later revealed that Colin, his son Johnny, and his friend Ben had all died of head injuries, while Graham had been killed by a chest injury. Dr. Clark concluded that all the deaths would have been extremely rapid. On February 12, 2009, the inquiry into the fatal accident revealed that Colin tried to recover the helicopter after an unknown occurrence, which could have been a technical malfunction, interference with the controls, a bird strike, or pilot error. However, in the official report that was released on September 6, 2011, they found that the crash could have been prevented, attributing Colin's piloting as unnecessary and unsafe. His risky maneuvers, described as a spectacular and dramatic flypast of the valley, were solely for the passengers' enjoyment. The sheriff added that Mr. McRae chose to fly the helicopter into the valley. For a private pilot such as Mr. McRae, lacking the necessary training, experience, or requirement to do so, embarking upon such demanding, low-level flying in such difficult terrain was imprudent, unreasonable, and contrary to the principles of good airmanship. The sheriff said the fact that Colin McRae had no valid license or authorization for operating the helicopter showed a somewhat cavalier attitude. Karen and Mark Porcelli, the grieving parents of Ben Porcelli, also shared that they had never granted permission to the British rally champion to take their son on the helicopter. They had assumed that their son was simply playing with Colin's son, engaging in their usual activities like playing with cars, as they often did together. Colin's father, Jimmy McRae, shared in a brief statement that it's very ironic, really, when you consider the dangerous life that Colin had in his career as a rally driver, to lose his life here 50 yards from the front door of his house. He added, "We still believe we will never know what caused the crash, but we were never in any doubt as to Colin's prowess as a fine pilot." To this day, Colin McRae remains a legend in the rally community. In November 2008, Colin was posthumously inducted into the Scottish Sports Hall of Fame. Despite his untimely death, his legacy will continue to inspire future generations of motorsport fans. A true legend of rally racing, Colin's fearless driving style and unparalleled skill behind the wheel captivated audiences worldwide. From his historic World Rally Championship victory to his unforgettable performances with Subaru and Ford, Colin pushed the boundaries of what was possible on the rally stage. It was either a win or it did not finish for him, and that's what made him great.